Hi, good morning. So this is a video response to Wednesdays with Eric, and his topic was BDSM and we can read. And I would do a text comment, however, what I have to say won't fit on 500 characters. So I'm doing a video response instead. Now this is a topic which is very near and dear to me because I have been into BDSM since I first discovered sex. And perhaps even before that, because when I was a little girl, I would tie up my dolls. I would play that my dolls were slaves and so on, and at that point it wasn't anything sexual in it. It was just an expression of who I am. And now, first of all, the thing that really drove me to want to respond was Eric's insistence that BDSM cannot be used in ritual and should not be used in ritual magic. And this is something I completely and utterly disagree with. Now, for the Great Rite itself, no, I would not do BDSM in that, because the Great Rite is supposed to be the god and goddess marrying by proxy. It is not supposed to be about the practitioner's sexuality, it's about being stand-ins for the god and goddess so that they can have a marriage on earth through the practitioner. However, in a lot of other ritual, definitely BDSM magic has a great place if that is what is important to you. Eric says you should never involve BDSM with your spirituality, and to me this becomes very wrong, because if you're saying that you should never involve this with your spirituality, you are saying this is bad. It is so bad that you should never include it with spirituality at all. And it isn't negative. It isn't something to be afraid of, and quite frankly, BDSM magic can give a lot of very, very powerful results. I have been practicing BDSM magic for some time, and some of my most profound spiritual experiences have been when involved with this. And I definitely think that if you're doing sex magic and are using sex in some way in your practice, and you are into BDSM, then BDSM definitely has a place. Now, I can't separate my sexuality from my spirituality, because my sexuality is a part of who I am, and my spirituality too is part of who I am as a person. And me being a submissive and being into BDSM, that is more than just a fight of a fancy and interest, a way to spice up my sex life. It is my sexual orientation. So, since I am a spiritual person, and I am also a BDSMer, I cannot separate BDSM from my spirituality, because everything that I do which are important to me are part of that spirituality. Now, of course, you should never go into a ritual and do a ritual based on sex magic and do BDSM without talking with the people involved, because not everybody's into this. But if this is your cup of tea and the other parties involved in sex magic with you are also into this, then what's the problem? It is not negative. It doesn't spread negative energy. There's nothing bad about it. And in fact, if you look at a lot of ancient cultures, pain, for example, were used by shamans, um, mystics all over the world and through many stages in history as a way to achieve gnosis, to achieve magical consciousness. And for many who do BDSM magic, this is a very big part of it. Using pain to get into a ritual consciousness. And I would also say that a lot of BDSM is very ritualistic. And this ritualistic nature of it can be very beneficial in magic. Now, I recommend that you read a book if you're interested in this topic, called Dark Moon Rising. The author is named Raven Caldera, and he just is amazing. He has basically Dark Moon Rising is a book about pagan sex magic done through BDSM, and he explains things a lot better than I could. And that symbolism, that ritualistic nature of BDSM can be used very effectively in magic. And to me, magic is not about everything being completely balanced all the time, because if you look at nature, everything isn't balanced at all times. Also, not everyone who is into BDSM is into dominance and submission. There are also people who are just sadists and narcissists who like to either give out pain or receive pain. BDSM is a catch-all phrase for everyone within a huge spectrum of sexual and really sexual and relationship-wise interests. And if you look at some types of witchcraft, like even Gerardian Wicca, you will find rituals where people are tied up, where people are ritually flogged, and these sort of imagery go again and again and again in a lot of literature and a lot of what we know of how religion was, various forms of pagan religions were practiced. And while this might not be what you consider to be BDSM, it is definitely coming from much of the same place. So, yeah, I definitely think that BDSM, if you are into it, has a place within magic. So that's the first point of my response, that I disagree that BDSM cannot be used in magic. My second point is about the Rede and BDSM. Now, first of all, the Wiccan Rede is a poem. Many think that it is exactly the same as the Christians' Ten Commandments, but it isn't. Within Christianity, Christians believe that Moses went to a mountain, God himself commanded these rules, which he came back with. And the problem is that this isn't true for the Rede. The Rede is just a poem who has then been adopted by a lot of witches and a lot of traditions, and it is definitely a great way to a great advice for how to live a conscious life as a kind, helpful person. However, it is a poem, it isn't, pun intended, written in stone. And the same with the idea of harm none. It is part of a poem, and I think that each person will have to make up for themselves what this idea of harming none means. So yeah, first of all, if you follow safe and consensual, then nobody is hurt by BDSM. Of course there can be accidents, but then I just heard about a girl who had been brushing her teeth while walking around her apartment, and she had fallen, and she had to have major surgery because her toothbrush got lodged in her throat. So accident can happen, but basically safe, sane, consensual, then you are pretty safe. Now there is another slogan of BDSM, which is RAC, risk aware consensual kink, and here you can go a bit longer when it comes to the risks being taken. The point of RAC is that nobody should take a risk that they are not fully aware of and fully understands. But as long as all parties involved agree to take that risk, then all is well. For example, take whipping. Normally you would not leave lasting marks. It might be a few bruises, but that's it. But if you follow RAC, you might actually use a snake and cause actual cuts. And of course those could be infected, they could cause problems, they could scar and so on. But within those that ascribe to RAC feel that it is up to the individual to decide whether or not they want to take this risk. To me, practicing BDSM and ascribing to RAC instead of safe, sane, consensual is no different than those that decide to climb dangerous mountains or do other things where there are a calculated risk. And I do not think this goes against the intention of the Wiccan Rede. To me, the Wiccan Rede would more go against, like for example, what I do when I overeat, which is definitely harming myself. Or staying in a harmful relationship, even if this harms yourself. And I think it's also very important to know that the Wiccan Rede isn't judging. It isn't saying, if you go against this and these and these rules, you will be punished. The Wiccan Rede are advice for living. So that it says, don't stay in a relationship which are bad for you, don't eat food which are bad for you, don't do things which are harmful to yourself or to others. However, I don't think that BDSM, even if you practice RAC, is harmful. Of course there are accidents, and with RAC you take somewhat more risk, but unless you say everything that's risky is against the Rede, then really BDSM isn't. So yeah, what BDSM is, it's very difficult to formulate, because basically it is a catch-all phrase for those who are interested in physical pain, as those that are interested in dominance and submission, and those who are interested in, well, any of the topics around there. Now, what I have been looking for in your videos, not just yours, but those that comment on this topic from your channel, is what about those that live in a BDSM relationship 24/7. Now, for most people, I would assume that practice BDSM, they do so within the confines of their bedroom. It is sexual spice. But some live in these relationships. They live as master and slave or dominant and submissive 24/7, and then often punishment is part of it. Physical pain given not just to give pleasure, but as punishment. Now, I think that that's when the morality within, if you look at the Rede, comes into play, because when it is just people playing a bit rough during sex, I don't see a problem. However, what if you have a person who live in a relationship where they own the other person? Of course, not legally, but within the confines of the relationship, they own the other person, and they whip them as punishment for displeasing them. Personally, I do not think this is harm, because intent isn't to cause harm. The intent is to better that submissive in their service to their master. However, I think that's an interesting topic, and I just wanted to throw it out there before I ended this video response, which are getting a bit too long. So yeah, to sum it up, I do not agree that BDSM and Magick do not mix, because I have practiced it myself. I know many others who practice BDSM Magick with great results, and it's nothing negative in it. 2, yes, I agree, the great rite is not about personal gratification, it is about the marriage of the goddess and the god, and BDSM might not be the most appropriate there. But that doesn't mean that there is not other rituals where BDSM is appropriate. And 3, no, I don't think BDSM, whatever or not you look at it as safe, sane, consensual, or rack, is against the Rede. So that's just my video response, because I just had to when it comes to this topic. Have a great day, and blessed be.